Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jerry Sansing with South Texas News and Reviews. I've got a guest this evening, Mr. Ed Bennett, who is a bachelor master's degree in accounting and also a certified public accountant, and has been in that business for a long time. So I thought we'd go ahead and talk about jointly some of the concerns we have with the different taxing entities around Corpus Christi, Texas. And I think since Ed's an expert on the Del Mar College stuff over there, then we'll just start with that one. So what I'm going to do is ask Ed, why did they, let's see, how can I phrase this? What went wrong with that conversion, and what is a conversion?
Well, it took us over a year to get the memo from the college controller, Mr. Johnson. You first found that they'd written off $185,000 of bad debt that was actually third-party bad debt. Some of it we recognized, like Kingsville A&M, and several other ones that were fairly large. Kingsville was $54,000. So we've been trying for over a year to get more and more detail about those write-offs because they didn't make any sense.
Right.
Finally, we got down to the Public Information Act request that asked for the detailed posting logs to the subledger. That would tell us what accounts in the subledger were posted to. And if I had an account with Del Mar and they wrote it off, it would say Ed Bennett write-off. Well, we got this memo from Mr. Johnson that said there were no detailed subledger posting logs. Now, most people wouldn't understand what that means. But he also said in there, I did understand it instantly. He also said in there that they had an accounting conversion in the year 2010. And the general ledger, as a result, was out of balance with the subledger. Well, that means it failed.
Okay.
The accounting conversion failed. And what that means is they should have stopped. They should have never gone forward. No one ever does that. Only people that don't have any clue what they're doing go forward. They did. They went forward. That means, Doctor, that their books were out of balance. The general ledger is their books and records. That represents the books and records of the college.
Right.
After the conversion, they were out of balance.
Okay.
Now, they were out of balance until they posted this forced entry here that we've been investigating for over a year and a half, or at least over a year.
Yeah.
And that forced entry was the $185,000 for the third-party receivables. That's the one we focused on.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what else was out of balance. We know that was out of balance.
Mm-hmm.
And according to Mr. Johnson's memo, it went out of balance in 2010, and the journal entry to correct it was 2012. Now, these books and records are audited by a CPA firm every year, and that crossed at least one audit year.
Right.
So that concerns me as to how they audited, how the CPA firm was able to form a conclusion that the books and records were fairly stated when the books and records were out of balance. And so I sent a copy of that memo to the managing partner of the CPA firm. I'm not asking them any questions. I just said I want to make you aware of it. It took us well over a year to get this information. Right. I want to be certain the CPA firm had it because they have an opinion that the books and records are fairly stated when Mr. Johnson, the controller, is saying the books and records are not in balance.
Okay.
That concerns me.
All right. Well, let me ask you this. What would it mean if the auditors didn't pick up with it? Now, I've been told in the past I've had some problems with the chief financial officer. Actually, he was vice president of business and finance at the time, prior to the last two that we've had. And I was told at one time when I thought I had seen something with funny money somewhere that these auditing firms that come in only audit what they're given by the college.
No, that's not correct. They do a very thorough job, and there is a materiality aspect to it. It's an $80 million a year budget, so it may be that the CPA firm knew about this. I think they would have adjusted it if they knew it.
Okay.
So I have suspicions they didn't know about it, but it may well be under the materiality. So even if it was out of balance by the 185,000, it may well be okay for the CPA firm.
Okay.
Now, they should have known it.
Mhm.
They absolutely should have known it. Now, Doctor, my question is, we focused on the third-party receivable. That's the only account we focused on.
Mhm.
It's out by 185,000.
Right.
We don't know what else is wrong out there. I have never seen a set of books that's out of balance that gets audited and is a public entity. It just, I'm actually baffled by this.
Yeah. Well, I am too, and of course, we looked at Verizon, which was what, $1,100-$1,200, and
1,800 or so, but
yeah.
it was clearly paid.
Okay.
And it's part of this, the support for this write-off includes that account. And then it was backed up. It had a standby letter of credit in case it wasn't paid.
Right.
So there's no way that should be part of a bad debt.
No,
So-
I don't think so.
So what else is wrong with these books?
Mhm.
They're out of balance. They're saying the stuff's not collectible when it's supported by a standby letter of credit and their own records say it's paid. What else is wrong out there?
Yeah, well, I get that. I know that the one that really baffled us with that was A&M Kingsville, at
It was.
$54,000 some odd dollars. And I do know that we're still trying to get to the bottom of that one with the people down in Kingsville.
We are. I sent a PIA request in for any payments made to Del Mar, and the 10 days have not run yet. They're very close.
Mhm. Right. Well, I'll be real curious to see what comes up with that. Now, another one that concerned me, and I'm going to have the Public Information Act request out for that one soon, was the $89,000 with the Coastal Bend Council of Governments. And I called them, and I asked the gal that answered the telephone, I said, are you a taxpayer, funded entity? And she said, no, definitely not. Well, then I looked up their funding and so forth, and they're getting federal money, and they're getting state money, and so forth and so on. And I would assume, not being an expert on all that, that's probably taxpayer money.
They have totally ignored me, and I forwarded to you late this afternoon, which I don't think you've gotten yet, the PIA request that I sent in a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Totally been ignored.
Okay.
Um,
Right. Well, I did get one letter that you'd written them asking them for information, but I don't think you cited the
not in that one. That was over a year ago.
yeah.
And,
Okay.
and they totally ignored that as well.
Okay. So you did file a second one?
I did. I sent a
Public
PIA.
information.
I did. It was totally ignored.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go and see if I can jingle Greg Abbott's chain as the Attorney General's office, because if we're having our legs pulled again, but I mean, when they say that we've got federal funding and we've got state funding, that's got to be taxpayer money. I mean, where else do the feds and the state get their money?
Well, they print it, but that'd be our money too.
Oh, well, okay. Well, we'll keep you fine folks out there apprised of what's going on with this, and keep you focused in on that. I'm just going to drop these.
And my concern there is that we have spent all that time on one account. That general ledger is massive.
Mhm.
Is it a huge mess, or did we just pick up on the one account that is a huge mess?
I don't know.
Were we that fortunate?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it was like hitting a needle in a
Well,
haystack.
it seemed to be buried from us, and based on the $27 million estimate I got, they didn't seem inclined to provide us with any information.
No. They were not at all. Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to say about the quote books over there?
We need more access to them. It's going to be a struggle.
Yeah.
After the last election, I don't think they're inclined to give us any more than what they were before.
Well, they may be changing their tune if we can get the Attorney General down here to take a look at some of this stuff. And I think
And the
it's
state
almost
controller
there.
as well.
Yeah, I think we're very close to doing that, but, that's the way these people do. And of course, Nick Jimenez a while back wrote something about your $27 million estimate and said that was one way with the foot dragging and everything else going on. And then I think they quoted Foghorn Leghorn and saying, what was that?
Go away,
Go
boy.
away, boy, you bother me? Okay. And that was his perception of what Ed got during the times we were trying to get information out of him.
Doctor, if those books are clean, how did we run into that? And why won't they let us have any access to anything? We're the taxpayer. That's our money.
That's right.
They're the fiduciary.
Mm-hmm.
They're responsible for our money. Yet they're blocking every step of the way.
Well,
Does that mean those books are clean?
well, what disturbs me with Ed is, you know, I'm a man of limited resources. I work for Del Mar College, but they seem to have an endless supply of money when it comes to legal maneuvering and foot dragging and everything else.
And we've reviewed those attorney bills, and we know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you bet. And, you know, I mean, Del Mar College essentially is a cash cow over there. And they won't treat anyone fairly as far as I'm concerned, and they wind up getting sued, so they turn it over to the attorneys, and the attorneys are raking in, you know, big bucks over there.
They don't even have to get sued to turn it over to the attorneys, Doc.
I know, well, all they have to do is see one of our two names on something, and
Yeah.
it's
You, me, Dr. Olson.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it used to be Dr. Hoyt, so, anyway, all right, well, here's, as you fine folks know, the voters did approve all the bond elections that were here, both the school board and the city and Del Mar College, and it kind of quieted down after Del Mar College. I was very concerned about that because I've seen the lack of maintenance going on over there, and it's now called deferred maintenance big time. I do have a big concern over the health and welfare of 3 employees, a couple of faculty members, and so forth over there in the Benner's building. They don't seem to want to take care of that air conditioning system that's full of mold over there, and those women are suffering. So I don't know what their motive is on that, except you know, they don't believe I know what I'm talking about. So if you want a resume out there, just email me. I'll fire one back to you. I do know what I'm talking about. And I tested an awful lot of buildings and stuff for the dreaded black mold. Okay? That was something that I learned to do in graduate school years ago. But I guess what concerns me is $157 million added to what is already, what, $100 million, $99 million?
We've got approximately 100 million outstanding.
Right.
We've got 10,500 students.
Mm-hmm.
Less than 3,000 of those are full-time.
Right.
About 1,350 of those are dual credit. They're being taught at the high school.
Yeah, well, a lot of them are what they call a continuing ed over there too. Somebody that, you know, wants to go back and take a 6, 8, 10 week computer class or swimming class or underwater basket weaving, and they pay for that. And from what I understand, the professors and all that teach those classes and those departments, they don't receive any of that money back for the departmental funds.
Really?
That's what I've been told. I'm going to try to confirm that in the next show. So, you know, it's just strange to me. But let's see, Dave Hendricks, who's a fairly new addition to the Caller Times reporting staff over here, he said, question is whether voters have enough info. And he wrote a story about people wanting to, and I think Chewy Hinojosa is part of this too. People want to know more about what these bond elections are all about than the information they get on the ballots. And his whole premise here was that, you know, bottom line, people that voted for Del Mar College really didn't know what their tax consequences were going to be with that, and it was not spelled out. And unless you went to a specialized seminar or meeting like we did, and it really wasn't pointed out that well at those either, then we don't know what we've got. So now we've jumped from 150 or from 99 million roughly up to 157 million, and that's going to take us debt per student from $9,900 to.
Well, we're going up to 257 million now. You had 99.
Yeah, I missed there. Yeah.
So, and it's less. Let's say with 10,000 students, that's $25,000 per student debt.
Yeah.
Now the high in Texas currently is about 18,000.
Right.
And there's only a few schools like that, and they don't look like they're well run.
Right.
The average debt per student in Texas for a community college is $6,000.
Mhm.
We're now, once those bonds are issued, we're at 4 times that.
Right.
And our student enrollment is declining.
Yeah, well, I've noticed that my classes, normally the first day that they open up over there, they're full. And I've got some that I don't even know if the class is gonna make at the current rate. So, I mean, I've got 2 overload classes, I've got plenty of room, I'm not gonna, lose my salary over there or anything. I do have 4 out of the 6 that are pretty well full. I've got 2 of them completely full, and the other 2, I've got probably 20 out of 24. But when I've only got 7 and 4, and I don't know what I did. Normally my Monday, Wednesday afternoon class, it starts at 1 until 2:20, and then I've got a lab for one half the group. I teach a double lecture in there, twice as many students. And I've split off a lab on Monday that runs until 5:20, and then the other half goes Wednesday afternoon from 2:30 to 5:20. And normally those things are full on Monday, Wednesdays, and I don't understand this year what's happened.
That's scary.
Yeah, so, we may be in, and I've looked over some of the other classes over there in other departments, and I hope students are just waiting for payday in December to sign up for January classes, but we may be taking it in the neck again for enrollment. So I don't know what's going on, but the bill that I think it is, isn't it State Senator Chuy Hinojosa? I think it mentioned him in here, that a lot of people want to know a little bit more about what's going on with this. Okay. And and then we've got a government group in here, but it's something else, folks. It said bill would add detail to bond ballots. So I think if people knew how much their taxes were going to go up with that increase to $256 million.
Approximately.
Yeah. And it's going to take a long time to pay that out. I can't remember what the interest rate is.
Probably beyond our lifespan.
Yeah.
And they always quote that the impact it'll have on a $100,000 house.
Mhm.
I don't know anybody that lives in a $100,000 house anymore.
Not many, not in this town. Well, we'll just keep you posted as to what's going on with that. And then we had another article, and this was this past Sunday's paper. And this was one that says towering potential, downtown could become housing hotspot. See, we've already got people calling us. So anyway, so what we've got is everybody's banking on downtown's going to be the housing hotspot. And what really bothers me about that is we've just
How about Chapman Ranch?
Chapman Ranch, because they say that's where everything's going to go, and that's going to be the hot spot.
So I'm confused. There's 25 miles difference there.
Yeah, well, and then there's it's just nuts on what houses down there. But I guess what they're banking on are the young people want to move downtown into high-rise apartments and condos, and then the rest of the family people are going to move out to Chapman Ranch over the next 500 years.
Well, based on the average salary in Corpus, I'm not sure how the young people are going to afford the housing down there.
I don't know, because that's expensive to put those units up down there.
If you're a male in Corpus, you're making $31,000 a year.
Yeah.
You're not going to buy a really nice condo for that.
No. So, it's, and well, I'll get to Ralph Coker's little forum here in a minute. And then there was another one by Herb Canales. But this does bother me when I see this kind of stuff going on. And, Lord knows we can't afford all that money to put out the water and sewer and everything out, out to the...
Well, we haven't gotten sewer lines run to subdivisions that were annexed decades ago.
No.
And now we've annexed, that's 10 miles from my house to Chapman Ranch.
Right.
And although there's only about 3 houses in that 10-mile stretch.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, it's hard to say what's going to happen with that. It really is. But it concerns me deeply that we've got, that people at the city council and the local governments think that the general public around here, taxpayers, are so stupid they're gonna buy into that and can't figure it out. I mean, that's just my personal feelings with it. And then what we have is, this also came out Sunday on the 23rd, a couple of days ago, or actually yesterday. It says, "Let Corpus Christi grow its own way." And this was Ralph Coker, and he's a retired petroleum refinery manager and all that good stuff. But he's in here, and he wrote one portion in here that really got my eye, and I'll just read the paragraph to you. It said, "Recently, the planned Corpus Christi consultant conducted walking tours in downtown to plan future walking destinations. It's ironic the consultant chose mid-November to walk, which is our best weather of the year. Why not midsummer when the relative humidity is 95% and the temperature is 95 degrees and the hot, humid, salty wind is blowing off the bay between the downtown buildings at 30+ miles per hour? That's the reality of Corpus Christi. Nobody in their right mind walks downtown in the summer."
And Ralph has something that most people that I know don't possess. Ralph has a lot of common sense, and he has had in all the articles that I've read.
Yeah. Well, he's a pretty wise man. He's done some good stuff, and you know, he was down on the Destination Bayfront and had a few words to say about that. And then he says, "The last thing we need is another growth master plan for Corpus Christi. The city is growing rapidly from Eagle Ford oil and gas and the construction of $30 billion in new port industry plants. That is likely to continue for the next 10 to 20 years or more. By comparison, Nueces County property appraisals, including the city, is about $15 billion. Now, he's got a lot more faith in Eagle Ford Shale than I do. Okay?
I've got a lot of faith in Eagle Ford Shale. I just don't have a lot of faith in the oil price.
Well,
it's down 25%.
Well, that's true, but how long is that oil field going to last? You know, we went through that around here several times. It's been bust and
it is always a cycle.
oh yeah.
1986,
Mm-hmm.
$10 a barrel.
Right.
You know,
Right.
the people that were making $100 grand in 1983 were looking for work in '86, and they would take anything.
Right.
It's a cycle. That's why we need a community college that will educate these people that aren't getting the education in CCISD.
Right. Well, it's kind of poor there. Oh well. Okay. And then a vision for the place to be. And this was Herb Canales, and he's a 5th generation Corpus Christi resident, and I think he was Corpus Christi library director for 20 or 30 years on that. Okay, and then he's also talking about the downtown and so forth and so on, and he mentions philosophers and all kinds of stuff, but he's not. He doesn't see, as far as I can tell from what I read, you know, a great deal of potential down there. I know Ralph doesn't, you know, I mean, and it's true. I mean, there are a lot of tourists that come flocking in here to go to the beach and so forth in the summertime, but they're not out walking the city.
If you stay downtown in the Omni, downtown's fine.
Yeah.
If you drive on South Staples Street downtown,
Yeah.
you better lock your doors. There's a stretch in there that's pretty dangerous.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, we visited some offices over there one time.
Yes, we did.
Stacked with whiskey bottles.
And probably for good reason.
Well, you know, this is unbelievable to me, but I think annexation of that property out there was one of the most insane things I've seen in a long time. And then we have the CCISD information, and I'll let you look this over. You're the one that brought this up and were, you know, interested in it, and it's very, very telling. Okay, and what number were we in the state?
7.
Yeah, you know where that was in there.
716 out of 944. We're in the bottom 25%.
Okay.
And doctor, there's a lot of districts that You go in West Texas, Einstein's not teaching class out there. So we're competing with a lot of pretty weak districts in the state, and we're in the bottom 25%.
Amazing. Well, I had a discussion with a faculty member today, and she's in the developmental end of things. And, you know, she said that we do need to extend the developmental courses to the children, because the quote, the brightest ones and the wealthy ones are going to go to Harvard and Yale and Stanford. And
Never to return to Corpus again.
right. Well, well, I don't know. We've got an attorney.
Augie made it back.
Yeah. Mr. Rivera came back, and a couple of others, but not very many. But you know, I just wish that we could work out some arrangement with taxpayers and so forth around here to quit having people go on that school board and reduce the 3-year teacher contracts to 1 year. I mean, how many teachers are going to want to come to Corpus Christi if they're going to be?
I happen to know the salary down here is much lower than the Houston area.
Oh yeah.
Much lower.
Right.
And the students, well, if you look at the suburbs of Houston, you've got different demographics. The students here are pretty tough. The students in HISD, Houston Independent School District, are probably along the same category as these.
Yeah.
But the education level here is deplorable and not getting any better.
Right.
Now they are currently building a fine high school half a mile from here.
Right. And it's what it was. How many millions of
$100
dollars?
million.
$100 million, and
Yeah.
they predicted that maybe 60% occupied the first couple of years they opened the doors.
Yeah, it's sad for Corpus, but it's great for my property value.
Oh yeah.
And if Del Mar would just put that south side campus down here, my property value is
Another mile
sky.
of you, at Broadfield and Yorktown. It's and that was crazy, but that one's going to raise its ugly head again this next election cycle. I can guarantee you that.
Oh, they're not done. It looked like a slam dunk getting the 157 million.
Yeah, right.
But CCISD in the bottom 25% of the state, they're not educating the kids. We're paying for it, but we're not getting what we paid for.
Right.
They're not educating the kids, and then they graduate. The ones that do, there's a huge dropout rate. And the ones that do graduate, many of them read at the 4th and 5th grade level.
Right.
So somebody's got to pick up that education again to get them ready to prepare for a minimum wage job.
Right.
And that's Del Mar. So Del Mar is incurring a lot of additional cost because CCISD is not doing their job.
Right.
And I saw where Scott Eliff retired as superintendent, and big spread in the paper about him, as if he accomplished something that was pretty memorable. We're in the bottom 25%.
Right.
I'm not sure why they were accolades, or why there were accolades about his retirement and what he'd accomplished.
Yeah.
It looks pretty dismal to me.
Yeah. Well, I don't understand it all. You know, I mean, but I do know I get students every once in a while that they just absolutely can't write a complete sentence. So we work on that, and I don't mind working with them. It's just that you know, the taxpayers around here need to rise up and say something about the service they're getting for their tax dollars.
And I think this has a lot to do with why these publicly traded companies are built up in Corpus and then abandon the city. The employee base can't support a big corporation.
Right.
You can't. Whataburger's gone. It's their hometown.
Well, it was HEB's hometown.
HEB's gone.
Yeah.
You can't hire illiterate people to run a big corporation.
Okay.
And if they have a college degree, where did they get it from? Did they get it down here? Did they go away and get it?
Right.
If they went away to get it, are they going to come back here?
Right.
And that's why we're losing those big corporations. So our tax base is going to remain depressed as a result. That's why we have an average male income of $31,000.
Right. Well,
Those people aren't paying taxes.
No, and then they keep saying that all these people coming in for Eagle Ford Shale and so forth are going to buy these big fancy houses around here. Well, they're not going to come in and pay Corpus Christi taxes if they have to drive 20, 30 miles up into the oil patch to work. I mean, very, very few of them are going to do that.
Taxes in the windstorm. Why would you move into where you have to pay $2,000 extra for windstorm?
Yeah, well, you know, I'd hate to thrill the whole general public out there, especially lawyer. But, you know, I've asked myself that same question. Why are you sticking around here? And so maybe by the end of the next 6 months, you people will get an answer to that one. Don't get all thrilled, but there's life after Corpus.
But Corpus is a nice town.
Oh, I love it. You know, I really do.
And if our money wasn't being squandered, it'd be a much nicer town.
Oh yeah. You know, maybe we could a few more could afford that. Now another thing that I've got that of interest when it comes to my policies, I'm always asked at Del Mar, and I've got faculty members and administrators a little bit hot with me, because I do have a set of rules that I put out to all my students, and you've read most of those. And one of them is I lock the door, and I have since I got here, the first semester I got here, when the class starts. So don't come banging at the door. If you can't make it on time, talk to me. I may be able to, you know, sit down and make you up. But I can't have you walking through a class with cell phones and dropping book bags in people's lap or hitting people in the side of the head and disrupting the whole class, because the vast majority are going to be there. They pay tuition and they don't need you clowning around coming in late. So I did that for a number of years, and the administration was horrified with that and said that I had to stop that, and I said, no, it's called academic freedom. So, you know, you can stick that in your left ear and so forth. But then all of a sudden, with some of these shooters coming around, they said, well, we're going to suggest that everybody lock their door, okay, before class in case a shooter shows up. And a lot of people have figured out what's going on. Now, I just ran across this the other day, and it's from Tarrant County College, that's up around Fort Worth, and it says mandatory attendance policy, okay? Now, I dropped mine in a heartbeat, and we've just got this new drop form. So if I need to drop a student that doesn't show up for 2 or 3 weeks, then what they want me to do now, and they're blaming it on the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, I have to call that student and find out why they're not going to class, okay? Because somebody dropped a woman that was pregnant. She dropped out of sight for 3 weeks. You'd think that if she was in the hospital and having a problem, somebody would call and say, hey, I've got this problem. But then all of a sudden that triggered all these legal moves to blame it.
These are all adults, right?
Yeah, you'd hope so. Okay.
I went to school in the 70s at University of Houston.
Mhm.
We didn't have to be told. We did this.
Yeah.
We showed up. We paid for our college.
That's right.
We showed up for class. There wasn't any skipping classes.
Well, I remember.
Nobody came in late.
No.
Right.
In the entire time that I was in undergraduate school, I missed 1/2 of one lab period because I was so ill and people got tired of me over there making noises in the trash can that they said, would you please get out of here? Okay, we don't want what you've got, we don't want to listen to you, and so forth. So I left. And then through my graduate studies, I never missed 1 minute of one class. And I used to go in not feeling good at all, folks. Okay? But that, you know, you had to do it, because if you got behind, they didn't have any sympathy. They'd say, you know, hit the road, Jack. But anyway, I'm going to see if I can get this through Del Mar College. It's going to be a fight. But it says regular and punctual class attendance is expected at Tarrant County College. Student absences will be recorded from the first day the class meets. In case of absence, it is the student's responsibility to contact the instructor. Okay? All right, students absent on official school business are entitled to make up the coursework missed. In all other cases, the instructor will judge whether the student will be permitted to make up work and will decide on the time and nature of the makeup. And then it goes on. Okay? So they have no sympathy at Tarrant County. I hope they enforce this. You know, if I know somebody's been hurt or whatever, if they'll just contact me and let me know, then I don't mind spending some time making people up. And, you know, I've offered students on to tutor them and so forth and so on, mentor them outside of class, and I won't discuss what happened to me with that one, okay, in certain instances. But some people take kindness in the wrong, okay.
Now, when I was in college, the tuition was at max $150 a semester. That was a lot of money. I wasn't going to miss class.
Oh, no.
I was going to get my money's worth.
Yeah.
Now it's costing, these people have to be paying, what, $3,000 a semester?
Yeah. Well, I started out, and it doesn't sound like much these days, in a private school. My freshman year was $750 plus room and board and everything else and books.
For a semester.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I cut that down to about $400 when I transferred to a smaller private school. But I was working my fanny off, folks, to make that kind of money in a semester and pay my bills and room and board and food and so forth. I mean, and I wasn't about to miss a class. But I'm going to keep you apprised of what happens here with the this business with mandatory attendance policy. But we now have a new form that we have to fill out, and we have to call the student and then talk to them and then decide whether we're going to drop them or not. So what my inclination is lately, and a lot of my fellow faculty members, is if they miss classes and they don't show up, they get zeros for tests and they get an F for the class. Why would I want to bail them out with a withdrawal or drop? So,
I thought that would be their responsibility.
well, I've made it that way. I used to be concerned, but you know, and then if they miss so many, they're not going to make it through my class anyway. If
Sure.
They, you know, if they start showing up after 4 or 5 weeks and expect me to make them up with tests and stuff, they're out of luck. I'm not going to do that because that harms the students that were there. And you know, that's the same policy with talking in my class. I don't want people interrupting others by talking about the party last night or the football game the night before. And you know, and I've got people paying to listen to me.
That's a paid performance. They paid to be in there to watch you.
Yeah. And now I'll just tell you what the problem is with the cell phones. You know, if they're not going off and people have the unmitigated gall to answer them during class or have the buzzer, and I caught one this semester doing this, I said I don't want anybody taking notes when I hand a test back. I don't want them recording anything. And years ago I had some gal with a lump in her blouse, a rectangular lump, and she was sitting there on a review and reading like this, and what she was doing is tape recording all the questions off the test for the final exam. Okay? And then now I've got this gal that's sitting back there and putting the test that I get handed back in her lap and photographing.
Oh my God.
And then what's even worse these days, Ed, and this will horrify you. Person takes a picture of the test, emails it out right quick. Somebody's sitting out there and receiving it, and then they're texting back the answers on the test.
Now, yours is a science course. They have to learn this material to progress on. And some of these people go into medicine.
Oh yeah.
I
Most of mine do.
don't want a nurse or medical technician working on me that cheated their way through your class.
Right. Well, you know, my majors class, I get a lot of pre-meds and so forth, physician assistant students and that type of thing. So, yeah, I don't either. And, well, you know that, being married to a PhD nurse.
She has pretty high standards.
Very high, one of the best I've ever seen. And then we won't get into that that discussion tonight. Okay, but let me tell you this. During the problems that Dr. Bennett had, it was divulged that a student had started an IV line with Mylanta in it. And
That was a testimony in a public hearing.
that's right, and we can go back and we've got that testimony, it's already been transcribed and so forth. And then that patient expired.
Died. The
Died.
patient died.
Okay, and then when that was brought out, the explanation for that was, oh, well, that person was gonna die anyway.
And that's probably true. Now, whether it was gonna happen
Yeah,
that day,
or 20 years down the
that-
road.
that's a variable we
You know, I
never-
mean, death and taxes are the only two things for sure in this world, folks. Now, this is out of the document publication by the Texas Board of Nursing, okay? And it's, I think their annual, I mean, not annual, but monthly.
I'm not sure if it's monthly or quarterly.
Yeah, it's got October 2014 on it.
Okay.
Okay. Now, another thing that problem that occurred with the death of that patient involved was the fact that they had what were called preceptors that were taking care of and watching the student that had made that mistake. Okay. Now, we don't know who the student is, and the nursing board's not going to say anything about it, and Delmar certainly isn't going to fess up to it. But anyway, the nursing board wrote an article here, and I think this is a result of all that mess that's happened over the last year and a half. It says, is a coach the same as a preceptor in a nursing education program? And it goes on to explain the various aspects of what a preceptor is versus a faculty member and so forth. And then it's a little bit different if you've got an LVN not students, but nurses taking care of LVN students, and then you've got the RN programs. Okay? But I thought this was pretty interesting here. It says, in situations where the coach role is not equivalent to that of a clinical preceptor, the requirements for the coach position should be consistent with the specific expectations of the role. However, when coaches are providing instruction to students or evaluating their clinical performance, their role may be one of faculty. Okay, and board rules related to faculty qualifications and responsibilities apply.
Oh my.
Yeah. And then it says education guide, and it gives the precepted clinical learning experience. It may be accessed on the Board of Nursing webpage and provides additional information, which I'm going to look up. Okay. So it's, you know, I think this is probably the result of that little 1.5 year debacle that went on over there. I won't say any more than that.
Well, I know the Board of Nursing got the transcripts.
Yeah.
So we're aware of that.
Right. Well, you know, they just said that it wasn't, the student that had hooked up that IV was not under the direct control or
They said a couple of different things.
yeah. They blamed it on a preceptor who's not a faculty
They blamed a
member.
preceptor, and then they also blamed a faculty member that retired and named her.
Oh, yeah, I know that, yeah. So, I don't know, very interesting stuff here. And then I think there's more to come from the Board of Nursing on you know, being able to find out what in the world's going on with some of this stuff. But it's an interesting document. I mean, you have to start ordering those every month to find out what's going on. And then it has been announced that there was a job ad up at Dallas County Community College. Okay? And it says the Community College District invites nominations and applications for the Vice Chancellor of Educational Policy.
My goodness.
Yeah, that sounds lofty. As the Chief Academic Officer for the district, the Vice Chancellor of Educational Policy oversees the development and implementation of all academic and student affairs policies and strategic initiatives within the Dallas County Community College District, including those related to student success, academic quality, and expanding access to non-consumers of higher education.
Non-consumers?
I'm not sure I understand.
Okay.
I guess what they're going to do. Now, we've had a problem here where we have one of the administrators who indicated that students should be able to order their custom educational process and whatever processes in the same manner that they can go over to the fast food lane at McDonald's and order their custom hamburger. Okay. Now, that put academics on, I've got that in writing.
You do that, and you take that resume to your first job interview,
Yeah.
and what are you then qualified for?
That is,
It better be at the Whataburger, because that's where you're gonna end up working,
okay.
and it won't be in the corporate office.
Okay. Now, it says for this position, a master's degree is required with an earned doctorate preferred. So I guess they don't think a whole lot about, they say they prefer a doctorate, okay? Now, we've got some absolutely fantastic faculty members at Del Mar College, folks, that are master degrees individuals. Some of them have gone on for PhDs, which is a doctorate, and, which is great. But some of them are just absolutely fine, wonderful instructors. So I'm not snooty enough to say that if you don't have a PhD, you're nothing, which I can't say that and would never do that. I know too many other good instructors. Now, my vice president of instruction / provost, okay, applied for this job. And he's just announced, or it was found out through the grapevine, I guess, first, and now it is confirmed that he is going to move to Dallas County Community College District, and he's going to be right under the chancellor, okay? And he's going to be the vice chancellor of educational policy. And I'm not sure what that means, although they did read it, but I'm not sure what non-consumer education
I don't know what that is.
And we're going to have to enlighten me, okay? And that Vice Chancellor of Educational Policy reports directly to the Chancellor, who's Dr. Joe May, and will work closely with other leaders in the district to develop policies aimed at increasing student access, student success, transfer opportunities, and objectives in alignment with the priorities of the Dallas County Community College District Board of Trustees as outlined in the system-wide strategic plan.
Oh,
Now,
my.
that sounds pretty lofty to me. But, it's incredible to me that students are taking over the upper hand in a lot of these institutions.
Well,
We've both seen that firsthand.
and it bothers me that I've read some of Dr. Figueroa's blogs, and I was stunned by them. And then we watched as enrollments declined in the time that he's been here, the 5 years or so that he's been here.
Mhm.
It's declined every year,
Right.
down about, what is it, 14% from the peak. And then when it goes down after a 5-year period, he applies for a job and goes away. Now, congratulations to him, but
Right.
then we're left with Del Mar with 14% fewer students and a higher budget, and the institutional or instructional budget has gone lower and lower every year,
Right.
and the administrative budget has crept up. So everything, in my view, is now completely out of sync,
Mhm.
and off goes the fig to another college.
Right. Well, all I can say is congratulations, Dr. Figueroa, and Godspeed. Okay. Hope you can pull that off. But I was really a little bit shocked with that one because. And then now the question at Del Mar College is who's going to take over as the vice president of instruction / provost. See, it used to just be the vice president of instruction. And then when Dr. Figueroa took the job, he wanted to add provost to it. I guess it sounded better, whatever. Now he's a vice chancellor. And he's got a provost, I think, working for him.
Well, he's certainly got nice titles.
Yeah, he's got a provost of educational affairs. And then they've got an executive director of financial aid and scholarships under him, the district coordinator academic and student programs under him, district director academic
goodness,
student
that-
records.
That organizational chart makes Del Mar look efficient.
Yeah. District director curriculum management, and then district director student academic programs, and district director student success.
My goodness, I guess they
He's
probably have more than 3,000 full-time students up there.
I guess.
Wow.
I don't know what their enrollment is. I don't know if it's said in the ad or not. But anyway, you know, all I can say is bon voyage, take care. And
Yeah, congratulations to him.
sure, you know, that's a step up, I'm sure. But I'm real curious, Ed, to see what we're going to get as a replacement here. And we just need somebody that'll come in here and not worry about custom-made hamburgers and all the rest of this stuff that goes.
Delmar's got some real challenges. CCISD gives them to them. And it's going to take some serious work to get it done right and reduce expenditures. Now, I'm not certain how a third campus is going to improve that when your enrollment's declining every year.
Yeah, that's a tough sell.
I don't understand that.
No.
And the build up of the administrative staff over there at the main campus with declining student enrollment, it's just amazing.
Well, I think the smart thing would have done, if you really want to modernize a campus, then go for the $200 million they say it's going to take out here, and then go ahead and just sell off Delmar College.
Bulldoze it.
Yeah, just and run cows out there, plant grass and cows.
Yeah, a $200 million college out here would be a fine thing.
Oh yeah.
And if they're going to spend the money anyway, which it looks like the administration is going to do, then let's not have 3 separate campuses. Let's have some new campuses.
Well, I'm going to go ahead, since this show does usually get a great number of hits. I say I have no control over how many people watch this on the public access channel 10.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't get a count on that.
But I do with the
YouTube.
Mhm.
You got 25 followers or so
Yeah.
they instantly watch it, and then we connected in through
Facebook.
social media,
Mhm.
and that doesn't count on the
Right.
YouTube counters.
Well, I know a lot of the students watch it on YouTube. So, what can I say? But I'm going to ask that we change that air conditioning duct system out in Buddy Benner's building first, so that we don't have potential lawsuits and, pardon me, sick people there.
That makes a whole lot more sense than some of the money I've seen spent out there.
Well, yeah, and then, you know, if we do build these new grandiose buildings and they're leaking water 2 or 3 years later, can we go back on some kind of warranty from the builders and then the contractors and so forth and get it fixed? Because they will not go back.
I happen to have clients that are general contractors, and we warranty everything. We turn over a warranty book when we turn over a building.
Right.
Every item in there has a warranty.
Well, I'm going to take a look at it and see what
It
we get.
is a 3-inch binder
Yeah.
for
But
every.
I mean, there are a lot of architects, engineers, and contractors that are going to make a whole big lot of money out of $157 million.
And in the construction business, there's a lot of people making a lot of money in a number of ways. Sometimes it's scary, and then that takes us back to the books being out of balance.
Well,
So
yeah, one of my pet peeves has always been change orders.
that's how you buy the big boat.
Yeah, there's a boat down at what was that, Port Isabel area?
I think so.
Yeah, down there, and the title of that is Change Order, and it's owned by a businessman here in town that's in a what would you call that? I won't say what kind of contractor he is, but yeah, it's directly involved with what you need around here to stay cool.
The general contract is probably at a 3% margin. The change order is a 93%
Yeah.
margin.
Well, for a long time, I watched that when some of these buildings at Delmar were going up, like that addition to the music and art building over there. And every board meeting, here we go, somebody proposed, well, can we give them more money? You know, here's a change order, can we go ahead and approve this? And I said, man, I think I'm in the wrong business. But so that's another concern, but I hope that they will take care of that money and do the thing properly. let's get caught up with the maintenance over there. We need roofs and buildings that don't leak around every window, and we need air conditioning fine-tuned over there. See, we're on a cold water system, chill water system at East Campus. And so I guess we'll just have to see what we can see. I sure appreciate all your information, Ed, and I guess we ought to mention we've got maybe 4 or 5 minutes left on this hour. Where do you want to go from here with the books?
Well, I'll tell you, where we need to go is, there's an empty position over there at Del Mar. It's called the internal auditor. And as you walk into the administration building, it says President's Office this way.
Right.
And at the bottom of that sign, it says internal auditor that way.
Mm-hmm.
There's not been an internal auditor for the year and a half I've been going over there.
No, I
And,
can't.
there was one prior, but he didn't stay long.
Mhm.
Anytime I do research on it, everything disappears. So they definitely need an internal auditor. The books, according to the memo from the college controller, the books are out of balance.
Mhm.
Now, are they in balance now? How would we know?
Well,
How in the world would we
well,
know?
you'd have to have them not charge you 26.7 million.
I couldn't
to figure
afford
it out.
I couldn't afford the last estimate.
That caused some real heartaches over there, unfortunately. But you know, that's just the way life is in the fast lane, I guess. And you know, as a taxpayer, I'm going to stay in the middle of that, and I know Ed is. And we're just real curious as to how they can just write off $185,000. And you know, I mean, if you compare that to what, an $80 million a year roughly budget.
Yeah, they go through $300,000 a day. But if they're not watching the $185,000, and then if their books are in fact out of balance,
Mhm.
which is what the memo says,
Yeah.
our books are out of balance. Well, balanced books means checks and balances are in place. Internal auditors mean internal controls are being watched. They don't appear to have either. Now, they've got an $80 million budget. We just passed a $157 million bond. That, doctor, is a lot of money.
That's a whole bunch of money.
Uh,
And then we owe that other 99 million.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's interest bearing, folks. You know, that's not cheap interest when you pay those bonds off like that.
And with those big numbers, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. I think they said the 157 million by the time it ran its course was gonna cost what? I think that in
350.
Coca. Yeah, about,
3-something.
you know, another $35 million or so, or more than that probably.
No, I think it was a lot more than that.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of money. But if the internal controls and the internal auditor are in there, I feel more comfortable with it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Neither appears to exist.
Yeah, need to have somebody taking care of it. Well, we got about 2 minutes left here, so what do you want to?
Doc, we'll see, by the time we have another show, we'll see what Kingsville says about payments to Del Mar.
Okay.
So we'll get that PIA in. I've got another stack of PIAs related to the memos that were exchanged within the college related to the $27 million estimate.
Right.
So-
No, that one's not over.
No,
Okay.
no.
And I'll go ahead and I'll update to see how much more the attorneys have made in the last couple of months. You know, there was one that was running for political office. That's the board attorney, and didn't bill the college for several months. I kept asking, and I couldn't get any response from that.
About 10 months, I think.
Well, it was a while, and then we got that whopping big one that came through, and they're using, another thing that bothers me, just for you taxpayers out there, that we have attorneys out of Austin, Texas, that are doing the land deals, like on the campus over here, and other structures and things that are purchased and so forth around town.
Standard real estate deals.
Yeah, and I don't know why we can't keep it locally. I mean, I know a couple of real good real estate attorneys, and
And they're not charging the $470 an hour
right.
here that they charge in Austin.
So, I don't know. I guess what I'll do is this, I think that's about the hour, as close as I can do with the clock. I usually have my timer. So I'll ask the cameraman over there to just go ahead and punch that button and say good night and thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Doctor.